TV, the African Eye.
Welcome to the agenda with me, Lasha Kingsley in Douala, Cameroon. Every year, thousands of young Cameroonians graduate from state and private institutions or higher institutions. But most of these young Cameroonians are unable to use the knowledge they acquire in school to be able to put food on their table. Many of them are jobless. And on today's edition of the program, we are looking at what is wrong with the educational system of the country. And Dr. Ngwanyam is my guest tonight on the program. He has been working in the domains of trying to look for solutions to ameliorate or solve the problem of youth unemployment in the country. Mind you that his university or higher institution, St. Louis University Institute, prides itself for training quality self-employed professionals in the domains of health, agriculture, and technologies. What is wrong with our educational system and what should be done to change the narratives are some of the issues we'll be tackling tonight on the program. Stay with us as we come back after this short jingle break. Dr. Ngwanyam, thank you so much for joining me once again on this edition of The Agenda. Should we record, you were my second guest on this program when we created it 3 years ago. And of course, this is your third time of coming back. And today, we are talking youth unemployment and the educational system of the country. As we all know, every year, thousands and thousands of Cameroonians graduates from both the state and the private higher institutions. Most of these youths are jobless and they are unable to use the knowledge that they acquire from the university to put in food on their table. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much. And tonight we are discussing one of those topics that is really dear to my heart. And you know, I think a lot about youths. And we've been in this issue of training since 2002. So you can imagine it's not something I'm taking lightly. We are 20 years old in that now, and so I have been, you know, what pushed us to start doing it? Why do we do the things that we do? And why are we so strict with the students and the parents and everybody? Why do we say those things that many people will not like to talk about? It's because of the experience we've had, it's because of our mindset, it's because we do understand where we have gone wrong, and we are hoping that we can lead the nation and the youth and everybody in the right direction that is productive.
Yeah, Dr. Nick, today we are talking about higher education like I mentioned in my introduction. How would you rate the quality of higher education in the country, the curriculum that is being used, of which experts have said that the curriculum is poor and as a matter of urgency needs to be revised?
Oh, thank you very much. Before we get lost in it, but people might want to understand what is education for starters. You know, education is that training that youths get so that they can move their thinking and abilities from a point A to a point B. And at the end of the day, it's not, you don't just move their thinking and abilities for the sake of moving them. You want to be able to get them to a point where they can be creative, where they can learn to live with each other, where they can communicate effectively, when they can solve problems in their communities, where they can create wealth, where they can create the kind of world that they want for themselves, where they can compete with youths in other nations, where they can be proud of their own productions and so on, where they would have something to do, where they, where they grow as human beings, and they go through the phases, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, until they go out of the triangle and reach that stage where they are what is the transcendental phase, where they are useful to the community, where they treat others like they would like to be treated, where they feel that they are actually useful. So that is what education does. It brings you to that level of where you can make the best use of your capacities for yourself, for your community, and for your nation. So if the education doesn't bring you to that point, if education leaves you halfway, half-baked, then you cannot do those things. And that's why we are having a lot of problems in Cameroon. And that's why I keep saying that the youths in this country are in a poor state, and we ought to do something, otherwise there can be an explosion from their end.
What is it that is wrong with the educational system of the country, Dr. Nick? We are talking about higher education, and you happen to be one of the curriculum developers. Mm-hmm. And you've been so hard when it comes to this issue of making youths graduating and becoming self-employed. What is it that is not right with the curriculum that is being used in our universities?
Yeah, if you and I are discussing just the universities here, we'll get it wrong. Because education is a continuous process, and it starts from the foundation, in nursery school, in primary school, in secondary school, and then subsequently university. So if you and I are just discussing what is wrong with the education in university, what you are asking me is what is wrong with this palm, with this coconut tree that is not bearing fruit. You are questioning the coconut tree when it's already very, very, very hard up there and you cannot bend it. It's like trying to bend the back of an old tree. No, so we are dealing with a fruit that is, a tree that is already gone past correction. So the question we should be asking is, what is wrong with our university, our educational process? And the educational process starts from when we are still kids, and then the way you are formatted. So you grow in this picture, and then when you are getting to the university, you are kind of like just, those things become second nature to you. Mm-hmm. So that when you eventually come out from the other end as a professional, you are not thinking about it. It's not something that comes to you as a surprise. You know where you started, you know where you are going, and it's very clear, and you are very happy to be who you are. But the kind of education we've had so far, when you ask people what is education, you go to school to read and write. No, that's not education. So basically what we have been doing is teaching our children to read and write. That's not good enough. The education, even when we think we have done very well, we make them pass some of these kind of tests that don't even make sense, and they score A grades and so on. We think we are doing very well because the children scored A grades. No, it's not about those grades. It's about capacity. So if we step back again, we say education is to allow children first to know themselves, to know their environment, to know their community, to understand principles, because the world functions on principles. Whether you're talking physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, when you're talking living together, all of these are principles. When you say principles is nature. How does nature work? Then they learn to work with nature to achieve, not against nature. You work with nature using the principles of nature, because nature is the truth. When you align yourself with the truth and work with truth, understanding the principles, you will get results. That's how it works. You sow, you will reap. That's how it works. So if you don't train your children to understand the concepts of nature and how nature works and how they can use those forces of nature to work for themselves, then of course the children will have a very hard time trying to row their boats upstream instead of going downstream. That is the point.
Yeah, Doctor, recently 3 Cameroonian universities were classified or ranked amongst 100 best universities on the African continent. The universities of Yaoundé 1 and Buea, as well as Chang. Yaoundé 1 was ranked first in French-speaking Africa. Then we had the University of Chang and Buea. This news came as a shocker to many Cameroonians. I mean, does this ranking conform with realities on the ground? What is
don't get confused. You know, like when I'm talking with people, you know, they would take something and say, look at this element. Because of this element, we are doing very good, and you get it all wrong. I'm glad you said that they rank the University of Yaoundé as
the first in Francophone Africa.
For speaking French?
French, yes.
For speaking French?
No, not speaking French.
For
in
what?
French speaking
in French speaking Africa. I thought you said for speaking French. I would have had the best laugh of my... No. Okay. See, I don't know what criteria they looked at, but more often than not, you know, they look at your presence on the web and what you are doing.
That's why I asked, do they conform with the realities on the ground? No, it doesn't conform. When we know that thousands of youths leave universities each year, but they are jobless, and unable to use the knowledge they acquire in school as per what experts are saying, to put food on their table.
That's right. You know, the university rankings, we need to understand what criteria they are using to rank our universities. And for starters, it's very important to make everybody understand that there are two kinds of universities in the world. And Germany is a great example of those universities. And that is what the Ministry of Higher Education is also trying to do in Cameroon. We have these universities where you go and study theory and you get and you get certificates. That's what most of our state universities were doing. You just go study and get some subjects and some theory, and you are given a certificate. You can go up to PhD and you know how to tell a story. That's it. Okay. But now you also have the professional universities. Now, the professional universities are the ones that make things happen. So when you go to a country like Germany, you see those Mercedes cars, those BMWs and all those things. They are built by professionals, people who have gone to professional universities. But the physics that goes into making those cars, comes from the people in those theoretical universities. Of course, they also do practicals. Yes. The physics and the research and development comes from those universities, where they bring the information now into these other universities, where they change them into production and then to factories. Is it making some sense what I'm saying? Did you get what I'm trying to say?
Following.
Good. But if you have, and don't forget, back out there, we need to also step back again to say something and lay a certain foundation so people can understand us. It's about economics. Life is about economics. And the way life works, I think we have mentioned it, there are three things that make things happen. There's politics, or what you call policies. There's economics, which is Afenkap.
Yes. And
then there's development. When we are talking about development, two elements: the human capacity development and the infrastructural development, the development of logistics, whatever you call them. So, and whatever happens, it is the human person, which is the human capacity index, the human capacity development, is that human person who makes those things happen. So when you train an individual very well, which is where the school comes in now, when the school system trains the individual very well, the individual is able to work the policies, work the economics, and work the development, and you have a good cake that is baked. But when the education is poor, you don't get these things to function. So now we are, and another thing, we are talking about the economics over here. When you go to a country like Germany that is developed, go to Japan, go to Israel, go to Finland, go to Singapore, find out the systems that create wealth and development. Those systems are based on STEM: science, technology, engineering, economics, and mathematics. That's what makes industry work. You need a little bit of the social sciences to turn the machine around. So if you are talking about industrialization and making things work and creating wealth, 70 to 80% of that is STEM-based. But if you come to a nation where 80% of your children are studying with arts, you are never going to make it. Are you getting the point?
What explains this fact? Does it mean that the government has not seen the need to copy what you are saying, or what is actually the problem? Because you are in that sector, and you know,
yes,
we even have people who leave Polytechnic in Yaoundé and Douala. They are still jobless. They are moving on the street, but they study technology, engineering in those universities that are called professional universities.
So there is a little problem somewhere. There is a little problem. So you and I have agreed that you need to study STEM to be able to make it. But when you are studying the STEM, that's the thing. You, as an individual, you need to study leadership. You need to study entrepreneurship. You need to study emotional intelligence. You need to study communication, have good communication skills. You need to be a good cook. You understand? Yes, you have the technology, you are the best engineer and so on, but you must have the right character, and you must have these tools for making for interaction, because you can be the best person, but if you cannot interact with the next person, you are going nowhere. You must be able to work in teams to produce. But you see, one other thing to that I would decry with our school system in Cameroon is that we are in Africa, we teach our children to compete against each other. It's wrong. All right, we are teaching them the wrong things. So we teach the children to read. You don't want to discuss with your friend, because if you discuss with your friend, he's going to beat you at the exams. So you hide in your small corner and do your things, come and write, and you are the first in class. In Finland, it's not done like that. Besides, in Finland, most of their studies are done without examinations. So we put children through this examination thing where they compete negatively with each other. But you realize that at the end of the day, once you have completed the education in secondary, in university, you need to create systems that you use to create wealth and cause development and create jobs and so on. And you cannot work alone. You now have to work with people in companies or industries to make things happen. But we have been used to competing, you understand, and not associating with each other, and not giving each other space. So at the end of the day, when we have now become mature and we have all these papers, I wouldn't know how to relate with you.
Does it not now go to talk about the fact that the moral aspect of this formation of building of students in a university, they are not taken into consideration?
Yes.
And the moral now extends to corruption from what we are seeing, the politics that you talked about.
Yes. So it is about, we have people, you know, maybe they could be professors, people in ministry or whatever, people who have the power, who manage these things, but who don't have a grasp of how things work. Let me tell you, for instance, let us go to a hospital like Hôpital Général. You know the Hôpital Général?
Yeah, Douala, Maroua, Garoua. Right?
The way general hospitals, or all hospitals, are supposed to work. Let's go to general hospital so that it's very clear.
Yes.
When you go to the general hospital, you would see there is the department of the surgery, there's obstetrics and gynecology, all these departments, right? And when you come to a department, you will see that there's the head of the department who will be a specialist and very, very, very seasoned person, with other specialists working under him, and then other junior doctors like that, then the nursing team and the technical team. So you have all these teams like this. And they are supposed to be working in teams. And then in some difficult cases, you will see the surgical team collaborating with the gynecological team and the internist to solve the problem. Are you seeing how teamwork goes? But unfortunately, because of ego, because of greed, people trying to make money, you would come like to the surgical team. You will see a doctor there you will see the doctors who are not working with the others or with their boss. They're in their own little corner dealing with patients at their live and then sucking some money out of the patients, and not working with that team spirit. That's why you create something like a general hospital, which is supposed to rise up in its technical abilities. It never rises up. At the end of the day, the general hospital has the spirit of a couple of divisional hospitals clumped together.
Health centers.
Is it making some sense?
I try to engage. So where do we start from here, doctor? I know you started 20 years ago somewhere, but where do we start? I'm talking about looking at the general perspective, not individual perspective. So where do we start?
we have to start.
So that probably in 10, 15 years,
good,
begin to have those kind of
some
Cameroonians
results
that can
do make things happen.
Yes.
Yes, you are right, because it takes 10 years. It takes 10 years of continuous hammering to change something in the system, to change a human behavior. So you are right when you said in 10, 15 years. And I read in a book, if you want to change something, let's say even in America, in the educational system and have results, sometimes it will take 30 or 40 years. So we need to be aware of it and be intentional about it and go for it and change it. Otherwise, we are going to be in a mess for a very long time.
What does it take to carry out these reforms? Because the policy makers,
good,
they have to be involved.
Yes, the policy
to change the whole curriculum.
Yes.
You need it is going to be something tough.
Yes. So first, it starts with the policy, which is the politics. So there must be people who control the policy, who say, actually, this thing we have to make a 180 degrees turn on this thing. All right. I know that at the Ministry of Higher Education, there are some changes. The curriculum is being revised, you know, and a lot of improvement is coming on. But you understand that, you know, even implementing it is not as easy as